We're girlfriends of a certain age. In midlife, we got a lot to say. So let's get loud. We won't fade away, 'cause we're girlfriends of a certain age.
Hey girlfriend, welcome to Girlfriends of a Certain Age, a podcast for women who are living out loud in midlife.
We are girlfriends in real life, and each week we explore how to recover from being good girls and how we can live our best lives together.
So Shay, what exactly is a recovering good girl?
Well, Jess, it's someone who used to care way too much about what everyone else thought about her, and now she doesn't give a bleep anymore.
A little about us. We met in our 20s when we danced our butts off in the club together.
And now we're dancing through life together as friends, entrepreneurs, podcasters, authors, and mothers in midlife.
I'm Jessica Neighbor, and I'm a voice coach for vocalists and public speakers. I run impactvocalcoaching.com. I'm on Instagram at Impact Public Speaking, and you can find me on YouTube at Voice Coach Jessica Neighbor.
And I'm Fleshay Hesh. I'm a business coach and work-life balance expert for moms. You can find me at thebusymom.us or on Instagram at Work-Life Balance Mentor.
Every week, we discuss a hot topic, including culture, relationships, and health to help you live out loud.
If you identify as a recovering good girl or as a girlfriend of any age and you want to join our conversations, do it. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and girlfriendsofacertainage.com.
Oh, and join our free online community where we'll share bonus content and after-hours conversation on Substack.com. Just search for Girlfriends of a Certain Age at Substack.com.
Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, girlfriend.
Happy summer. I love this. We're still going during the summer.
Loving it. The days are getting longer and it's warmer and I got my sandals out. I'm loving the summer. How are you loving it?
I am so loving it. You know, yesterday, as we record this, yesterday was summer solstice, longest day of the year, and a very powerful day for me. Like, I felt a lot of energy. I felt a lot of shifts inside of myself. I did a lot of meditating, a lot of quiet time. I got 2 kids in camp, which I rarely do this summer. I decided to do it really differently, and I am reaping the benefits. So how about you? What's your summer schedule with the kids looking like?
My summer schedule is great. I mean, this one week in particular, I do a performance camp, so I'm a little bananas, but the rest of summer has been so chill, working part-time, 2 teenagers who can kind of do their own thing, which is still shocking mom a little bit, right? Because I was like you in the summer camp groove for so many years. But you and I were talking about how these summer vibes have inspired us about what it feels almost like to be in retirement and how to call that in now and not wait until we're 70 to start reaping the benefits of feeling retired.
Yeah. And part of what inspired this is that recently I was hanging out with some relatives who, it's a husband and wife. They both retired on the same day. It's very exciting. And I was celebrating with them and talking with them about like, well, now what? What are you going to do? And that people were saying things like, oh, you'll be so bored. Oh, you're going to hate it. You're going to wake up and not know what to do. And I was thinking, I sure don't think that. I think this sounds glorious, and how for them, they've worked really hard for this. And then you and I were talking and we were like, wait a minute, do we want to wait until we're 70 to feel that? No. Now, full disclosure, you and I are both entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. We are both married to some very strong earning husbands. So we're very privileged on 2 fronts. I think you and I are, a little more willing to take risks and try things as entrepreneurs more so than the average bear. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to have this conversation sound like you just do this and it's so easy.
Right.
But I think it can be easy to have more of a summer vibe with your working when it's not summer, a retirement vibe, like not killing yourself to work. I think that's what you and I want to sort of embody in this talk today.
Well, yeah, I really like the expression that I work to live, I don't live to work. And I think that a lot of our conditioning, especially I can only speak for our culture in the United States, really does set up this feeling that we should be a living to work.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you heard about the French, but recently they tried to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64, and the French lost their mind about it. And here we Americans are, a lot of people are thinking that they can't even retire at 70, that there's no way they can do that. So I think that I'm also curious to look at what we individually can do and really, like, can we move the dial greater society? Because as you and I talked about coming out of this pandemic, I think we're really looking and reevaluating what's working and what's broken. And we need to just be like, bye-bye.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like about the grind, about that working mode. I'm not feeling it. Are you?
I am definitely not. It's so interesting. I mean, I'm in a phase right now in my business of reworking things again. Now that I'm older, my kids are older, I realize, what I was doing is not working for me. Yes. The how, the why, the when I work, I'm shifting it again as we speak. And for me, this is like the fourth time I've done that. My business is almost 10 years old. This is the fourth time I'm doing it. So like very intentionally. So that's something that I do. For me, it's like moving furniture in the house, is reworking how I work. So that's just something built into me and that I teach other people how to do. And so for me, looking at the nature of work has always been so wrong. It's really why I quit my job very abruptly after I had my first kid. I knew that they were not going to be, I really wasn't going to have the flexibility and freedom that I needed to be the kind of parent that I wanted for my kid. And so for me, and I've worked from home since 2006. So I've been doing that for a long time. And now with the pandemic, everyone else got a taste of that. And for some people, it really worked. They love being home. And some people is like, get me out of here. And so I think it was actually really clarifying. And now that things are opened back up and people are out and about, you see people quitting jobs. I know many a lady changing careers.
Oh, yes. Not
just swapping out life partners and homes and cities where they live, but actually full on careers. And to me, that's very exciting because the nature of work is shifting. I don't care what corporate America says. They can put their foot down all they want and demand people come back. But people are saying there's another way. And maybe I'm not going to go back.
Right. And I think that this whole work ethic of work yourself to death and work yourself to the bone it's not ringing true anymore, if it ever did, right? I think everyone's starting to look around and go, who's that benefiting? Certainly not me, certainly not my family. And I can speak as a woman that I think at all stages of life, it doesn't suit us. This whole traditional full-time working Monday through Friday mode, like, does not serve a mother, a pregnant person, a person raising a family, and even a middle-aged woman and beyond. Like, there's always some stressor about that doesn't fit. And really, I don't think it fits anyone. It's a very unrealistic bar that is so high and it's near impossible to meet. And I don't know if, it was designed to be incentivizing, but I really sense from our age women and from millennials, I talk with a lot of young people who just say, I'm not buying into that, right? They are really living alternative lifestyles. They are really doing like gig economy or independent contractor work and not going into what I think we growing up thought more of as the traditional route. And it's interesting that you mentioned how you started working from home and stuff, because, I started working for myself almost 20 years ago. It really took me a while, and it took me working with you to really start taking ownership of that. I remember the first few years I did it, I was giving voice lessons. I was also doing some classes and enrichment things around town in different schools. I felt like a phony. I felt, get this, Felicia, because I wasn't doing the traditional 9 to 5, that my work didn't matter as much.
Ouch.
I couldn't take myself as seriously. I felt like there wasn't a role model out there. It was much less common than we see now. You know how like now you go out to a cafe in the middle of the day and it's packed with people? When I started doing this back in like 2003, when you were out in the middle of the day, it was kind of scarce out there. And now I think we're seeing so much more fluid work lifestyle. But I just do remember really having that like complex at the beginning of like, is what I'm doing real now that it's not in the office?
It's so true. So now you've come so far. And so now I want you to shock a few ladies. Will you tell the ladies, our girlfriends of a certain age, about your work schedule? Because I think this is very impactful.
Oh, yes, indeed, because we have worked together for quite some time. And I was like, I want some of that, and I want some of that, and I want some of that too. So I work Monday through Thursday. I get to call my own hours. Again, what you said, I recognize my privilege. I recognize the situation I'm in. Everyone doesn't get to be in. But as an independent voice coach, I get to call my own hours. Also means I am my own boss and I have to make work happen, but I'll do that. Don't work on Fridays. I save that for my dad day where I get to go have a wonderful family time. I don't work the fourth week of each month. So I meet with my private clients 3 times a month. That fourth week is my project week, my catch-up week, anything I need it to be on that particular month. And that is my schedule. Share yours. What's yours feeling like and looking like these days?
Well, mine is actually quite the same. I work 4 days a week. I don't work on Fridays. I will do special things sometimes on Fridays, but I don't have set client calls then. I only work 3 weeks out of the month. And so there are some months where I'm like, I have 2 weeks to myself with no one looking for me. And
March, the endless March month.
Yeah, it's really been impactful and it's very nourishing for me. And again, being self-employed, I realized pretty early on, and I got some coaching on this, so I didn't make this up. I didn't invent it. But this idea that I wanted to know when my rest was built in. And there's a book called The Now Habit. And it taught me when I was in college, actually, to plan first, like social things in my calendar. When am I going to run with a friend? When am I going to meet someone for coffee? When am I going to have a phone date? And then build my work around that. And a really wonderful career counselor at UC Berkeley taught me that when I was undergrad. And it's still something that I do and I teach other people to do now. And so this idea of like, oh, right. The more I work, really, the less I get done. If I work a 12-hour day, it's not like I'm going to have 74 different things to show for it. No. I'm going to be tired. I'm probably going to be cranky, which is then going to ripple out and hurt other people in my life. But when I know that I just have one more day of work, and then tomorrow, tomorrow's Friday as we record this, and I get to do special programs or, be on a podcast or do something for me. But I'm generally pretty social on those days. And then my friends and family know, Flachet is available most Fridays. Maybe that's a good day to try to meet her for coffee. Maybe that's a good day to invite her to go paddleboarding. Yeah. Then everyone knows.
Yeah, right. I love it. I love that we get to create our own way of being. And I just feel this rising tide that wants to do that as well. And I really do believe too in that expression of part-time work, full-time life, because it's so hard to have full-time work and have a full life. We see the sacrifices that people have to make. It ain't easy. And I commend people that have to do that or that even want to do that. So again, recognizing that everyone's different, but you want to know a fun fact?
What's that?
Each decade, my working hours shrink. And I think there's something really healthy about that. As I'm now looking right on the horizon, 50 is coming up. I'm looking at how I'm going to be working until quote unquote retirement age and going, well, I don't want to do the grind I did when I was 25 and 30. There's no way. And so thinking about how we can evolve and even taper off work somehow to work smarter, not harder. is really appealing and honoring that I have a different need now, that I do need more downtime to recharge, that I can't go like I used to. And honestly, when I can look at that and honor it and accept it, I feel so much happier than if I'm trying to push myself to work the way I used to work. I mean, it almost makes me think of like analogy to like trying to fit into your old jeans that your old self used to fit into. And you're like, these don't feel right anymore. It feels like that with work now.
It's so true. And I think that if we take a bird's eye view of our actual work day, it's sort of like school. You know, you're not learning for 7 hours a day. There's standing up and going to lunch and recess and use the restroom. And now we're going to wiggle around. There's a lot of that concentrated time, you know, I call that deep work. This idea of really that focus for like, let's for 27 minutes, let's just focus on learning about some math concepts and how they tie into the real world. So that's how I think a lot of homeschool families actually like, it's actually not that much work you have to teach a kid in an academic school year, really. And the same can be said for our work. And I think things are so upside down in our world now. I think in a lot of ways, the medical system is making us sicker. I think in a lot of ways, the mental health system is teaching us not to trust ourselves. And I think this is happening in work too. This idea that I need you to be here so I can see you and see what you're doing for 8+ hours a day to know that you're worth it, to know that you're doing something of value. And I think that we can do our deep work in a much more concentrated and intentional way. And there is no reason to work 8 hours or more. I mean, maybe if you're like writing a book and you can't sleep because you got to get that book out of you, that's a special case.
Right.
But to crank like that all the time is going to kill you.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Exactly. Like a deadline is one thing, but trying to work like that all the time is not sustainable. And it's sort of what the traditional work model is. And it's crazy making. I mean, who can win at that except for the few CEOs who are reaping all the benefits? I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense. You're making me think of a really cool statistic that I heard on a podcast. It's called Work Appropriate. It's a great podcast. The host is Anne Helen Peterson. She was interviewing Stephanie Natty Olson, who runs a contracting business called We Are Rosie. And she's a woman with a family. And Stephanie Natty Olson wanted to create a work environment for her workers that was sustainable. So get this. They all, every quarter, have to take 5 vacation days off. That does not include the 10 federal holidays. They get all of these perks. And what she found was, guess what? She has happier, more productive workers, and there's less attrition. She doesn't have to retrain and hire new people because her workforce is happy.
Yes.
So it's the long-term payoff rather than these short-term bottom line goals that we as a society need to wake up to.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. And that is a big thing that's missing, I think, especially in corporate America. They're no longer investing in their greatest asset, which is the humans, the people.
The people.
It's become this game where the employer is trying to get as much out of the employee as they can. And the employee, it's become this weird parental relationship where they're trying to get as much as they can out of the employer. How can I get the most money out of you, the most vacations, and do the least work? And that's like the dumbing down of everything and everyone and a bastardization, as far as I'm concerned, of work. Because we all want to feel purposeful, on purpose, like we're actually doing something, not just pushing paper around or having to clock in and show that we're physically there.
Right.
That's just toxic and exhausting.
Absolutely. And it's so important to recognize that deep work is really limited. We can only get that kind of focus a few cycles, it may be within one day. I remember a math teacher back at Berkeley High School. Oh gosh, what was his name? Mr. LeBlanc. Taught us that even Albert Einstein, in the middle of a totally difficult equation, would go outside and throw a frisbee around. And that while he was throwing a frisbee around or going on a stroll, his brain in the back of his head was still processing through things. He'd come back in, have a clear head, and voila, be able to continue on that equation. And I remember him teaching that to us, which was really a healthy, way to encourage students in math.
That's amazing. And I think in the average workplace, this is just my opinion and what I think and what I've seen from people, is that when someone does that, where are you going? I'm just going out for a walk to clear my head. Lazy. People get called something negative for taking care of their physical body, their mental health. And I just don't get it. So I really want to encourage all of our girlfriends to think through, where could they find pockets for meanness for them? Like, where can you thrive? Where can you shine? How can you be social even in like a 12-minute chunk of time? Maybe doing your walk, or sitting in your car and calling your bestie and having a cry, or whatever it is you need to do. Yeah. I mean, I think for ladies who work from home, I just really want to kind of tap them on the shoulder and remind them, like, are you doing it right? Like, if you're working from home and you're not eating like good food for yourself and getting some exercise, having some orgasms each week, I'm fully believing in that. Having like really like taking good care of yourself and your home, then I'm going to just be very blunt and say, I think you're doing it wrong. If you think you have to sit and grind at your desk when no one else is watching you, I just think there's so many opportunities for satisfaction in your life where you could really be nourishing and nurturing yourself. I want to task everyone to do it.
We got to be real, though, that recovering good girl and that programming runs deep, right? I mean, I told you that here I was, this singer voice coach, probably from the outside looking like I was living this totally alternative lifestyle and cool with it. I was shaking in my boots inside. I was like, can I give myself full permission to do this? And so I do think a lot of people will take their work home, but will imprint an old model on it. Even the woman, Stephanie Nadi Olson, who runs We Are Rosie, was saying that she was giving all her employees those 5 days that they had to take off every quarter. And then the interviewer said, were you taking those same days? And she said, I confess, a couple of quarters, no. Right? And the idea that even if you're in a leadership position or working for yourself, to model that you are giving back to yourself is so crucial. But I think there is a conscious effort that we have to make in order to have that happen. I will say that like the things I've now found in my flow, I have to do because I know what benefits they are. I have to do my yoga in the morning. If I don't, I am a cranky pants all day. I have to take a great lunch and get outside midday, or I feel foggy brain in the afternoon. But it took a lot of trial and error and working through some funky stuff about giving myself permission. And I really do think that our theme of recovering good girl is really in there, because also from a lot of work, we see how many women are oftentimes put in the positions of the note takers, of carrying a lot of the labor, not getting necessarily the accolade positions or the leadership positions, but the behind the scene grinded out position. And that we get rewarded for that. So just to say that like, this is not easy. It's worth it, but it's not always easy, at least from my perspective. It's definitely been a process.
It's true. And I'm not saying don't get your work done and just, lay around in a chaise lounge and burn out your vibrator, giving yourself orgasms and just like,
but do tell us more about that, please.
Oh my gosh, there's just so much research about all of the amazing hormones that get released when we're having orgasms, and using it medicinally, using it as part of your self-care program as a way to flood your brain and your body and your well-being, of like relaxation of our heart and all of our blood vessels. And I think it's called nitric acid that gets flowing through our bloodstream. It's really, really good for us. And to flood yourself with oxytocin. I mean, why not give yourself that gift? Now, if you are a slacker and you just don't get enough done, I'm not saying reward yourself for bad behavior. I'm not saying that. I'm a business coach, for goodness sake. If people aren't being productive and getting their stuff done, but also taking care of themselves. And I feel like that's been the sweet spot that I have found in working with moms. It's like moms feel so much guilt and shame and shoulda, coulda, wouldas all day, every day. That is toxic. That's gross. And that way of living, I personally think, is dying out. And so I've started getting more bold about talking about, use orgasms as a way to take care of yourself. And imagine, I'm not even going to talk anymore about it. Go and do it. Task yourself with having 3 orgasms a week. Do it on your own. Do it with a partner. I'm lucky I've got a sexy husband in the other room home all day. So but I'm just saying, use what you got. Use what you got and don't take my word for it. Go and do it and see how you feel. I'm saying that to all of our girlfriends because I really believe in it. And the first few times I said it, people turned bright red. How could you say it? I have family members who I listen to this podcast. They're going to have their thoughts and feelings about it. But I'm like, you know what? It is time for me to just wave that freak flag because our sexuality is part of our productivity. It is part of our mental health. It is part of our physical health, part of our absolute well-being. So go get off, ladies.
No. I mean, I feel you on that one, making yourself.
Oh, I feel so much better after doing your vocal warm-ups, Jessica.
Ooh, me too. I am ready now to speak on our podcast and not get all tongue-tied.
I feel more calm after doing your breath and speech exercises.
You are so right to feel that way. Did you know warming up before you speak is actually scientifically proven to help you feel more calm?
And how do you know this?
Well, as a voice coach of 20 years, I see how helpful it is with my public speaker clients. And a public speaker is anyone who speaks in public, which includes all of our girlfriends.
I never thought of it that way.
If you want, you can have your own copy of my public speaker checklist so you can feel this way every day. My free gift to you.
Ooh, thanks. How do I get a copy?
Ooh, you just click on the link in today's show notes, sign up, and you'll instantly get your own copy.
Thanks, girlfriend.
Stay calm and speak on, girlfriend. Girlfriend, sometimes I can get so stressed, I wonder if I'm burning out.
I totally understand. Burnout can be tough, but there are things you can do to prevent it.
Really? Like what?
Well, I'm leading a 5-day challenge that will help you to unleash your potential while tackling burnout.
That sounds amazing. How does it work?
Each day, you and I will focus on a different aspect of your life that's causing you stress. You'll learn how to manage your time better, how to say no to things, and how to take better care of yourself.
That sounds fab. Just like what I need as a recovering good girl.
Yep. The challenge is free, so there's no risk in trying it. You can find the link in today's show notes.
Ooh, I'm going to sign up right now.
Yay! I'm so glad to hear it. You and I can kick burnout together.
Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, girlfriend.
Oh, I just got off a call where my other girlfriend was so confused. She is in a relationship. They're at a crossroads and she's a little divorce curious at the moment.
Ooh, what did you tell her?
I mean, what do you tell a girlfriend? It's their decision. I just wanted to be there for her and support her, but I didn't want to tell her what to do.
Well, of course. Well, it reminds me of my dear friend, Tamara Mendelson, who's a relationship coach and divorce expert. She's divorced herself and a mom of 2, and she walks girlfriends of a certain age actually through a process of being divorce curious. Because some of us are just angry. Some of us are just feeling stuck in our relationships. But I'll give you the link and I'll leave it below for girlfriends of a certain age as well. And they can get free, immediate access to this roadmap and find out from Tamara what their next steps are.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so helpful. I will definitely share that link with my girlfriend. Thank you. Amazing.
You're welcome. And I'll link it below for all the girlfriends listening.
Awesome. Feel good. Let's face it, that is one of the best and free ways to do it. And you don't need anything or anyone else.
It's true.
and it's a de-stressor. It's really a de-stressor.
It's a de-stressor. And it's something that the good girl was told sex is bad. Sex is only used for this purpose and not for that. And don't enjoy it. And I'm not going to teach you how to enjoy it. And we're not going to talk about it. And we're going to, do this when you get pregnant. I'm just so done with that world. I'm so done with that shame and secrecy and laugh. I think that women, especially as we come into our own, especially as we come into middle age, we're owning our bodies and our sexuality. And how could that be a connection with our work? And I say yes. I think there's a very strong connection with our work and our worth.
Well, definitely, because let's face it, like at least corporate America and even some other parts of America, I think teaching and medical field, all those systems have not been designed for women. Let's face it. And so, I mean, women's pleasure is like at the bottom of that
very
equation.
Bottom. Is there women? Women enjoy sex? Is there pleasure for women?
Thank you. I was just listening to this other great podcast called Slow Burn, where they're covering the Clarence Thomas hearings with Anita Hill. And do you know that on that hearing committee, there was not a woman on it when they were interviewing Anita Hill about sexual harassment? So we see this play out time and time again, where like there's not even women in the room, But I think what's great about this too, and that's like kind of like a rebel streak in here, even when you talk about masturbating or when we talk about part-time work and stuff, it's like it is redefining what our life can be. It's redefining how we want to live and what our worth is. That there's even this weird pushback coming through the Supreme Court right now with anti-abortion and this weird pushback to like wearing prairie dresses in the home. I don't know what this creepy agenda is, but I don't like it. So there's something that feels really fun about being like, I'm going to work my own hours. I'm going to go have a little shake a rub-a-dub-dub when I need to and find what pleases me. And isn't that a wonderful way to just like claim our power? So I'm all for it. I love it.
I mean, the way you just described that, my whole body just relaxed. This is what I want for our girlfriends. Yes. This is what I want. So I do want to talk about a few nuts and bolts because I can already, my intuitive self is like hearing a bunch of ladies like, well, how do I do that? What you talking about? You privileged ladies, self-employed, right? So it's not, I don't even know what the numbers are anymore about self-employment with women and being employed or having gigs, or it's complicated with their work or trying to get back into the workforce. So I think there's a lot of stuff shifting right now and we're not really fully grasping all the data. If I am wrong and there was a girlfriend out there who can set me straight, please do. I invite that wholeheartedly. Leave it in the comments. So I want to say, read the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. So I read this somewhere in the beginning of thinking about being an entrepreneur. So I had a job, but I was kind of like a contractor at first. And so I was really self-employed. I had a lot of freedom and free time. And I was like, I want that life. There are so many actionable tips. Now, it is written by a dude like in his late 20s or something. I think Tim Ferriss at the time. So there's some of that. And like glorifying, I think, the, what's it called? The culture of working from anywhere, being a digital nomad. That's not for everybody, I think, but there are so many practical tips about actually how do you amplify yourself to get more work done. And he's using technology and contractors and gig workers. I thought it was brilliant and stuff that totally changed my life. Even as an employee, I started using it. So things like Fiverr, even finding a family friend or a family member or a friend who needs some extra work and giving them a few tasks. There's a lot that can be done for sure. The other thing for people who are employed, I want to say, if you haven't heard about this concept yet, the 4-10s, working 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. I remember when my oldest was a baby, it was really hard to get into like the mommy and me classes on Fridays or swim classes on Fridays because so many of the, working moms had Fridays off. And so I don't think this is a new concept, but this idea of 4-10s, I do think is something that a lot of employers are starting to get their heads around. So where can you find some flexibility? Where can you negotiate? And you can't negotiate from a weak point. So if you are not bringing it with your work, you're not making your quarterly numbers, you're not getting your reports turned in on time or whatever the thing is, you need to first bring that up. Do not be the lady who's like, I just deserve more. Of course you do deserve more, but you also need to show it. So make a plan. Oh, I could be doing this, this, and this, and this better. And then after 3, 4, 7 weeks of doing that, then I'm going to renegotiate my working here.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's really important.
I also think that when you do negotiate a part-time contract work agreement, that you really do want to set up some really good guardrails to ensure that that 4-day is really 4 days.
Yes.
Because there are companies that will suddenly have you coming in on Friday or ask you to work more hours, and you'll realize I'm getting paid part-time and doing full-time work. So there's lots of great resources out there to ensure that you are really making sure that there's healthy parameters around their expectations and around what you're going to deliver, so that that doesn't start to creep into there.
Well, and that speaks to boundaries. And us recovering good girls really struggle with that. I remember when my boss would write to me at 9 p.m. and I would write back.
I know.
And then I learned a trick of like, I don't know what software I was using at the time. Now you can just do it with Gmail, where you can schedule an email. I'll write an email back at 9:30 at night, but I'm going to schedule it to be delivered to you at 9 in the morning.
Right.
So it doesn't look like I'm sitting there and I'm there at your beck and call. But maybe it really worked for me to check that email at 9:30 at night after the kids are in bed and I have some free time. But I don't want that image going out of like, Flachet is always available.
No, we're done with that. We're done with that idea that you're available at everyone's beck and call, and we don't want to reinforce that. And I think you can set that up in your negotiation contract so that, sure, you should have your good boundaries, but also what if it was in the juicy contract to begin with? Some guardrails. I will be available for these hours. I will not be available Friday at 8 a.m. through Sunday at midnight or Monday morning at 8 a.m., right? To really reinforce that for yourself, because sometimes the idea of the boundary feels like the burden gets put on us.
Yes.
And I think in the negotiation setting, some of that could get reinforced, that you could just refer back to your contract. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that really... And that's where you need some hand holding. You might need to hire a coach, work with your therapist, get a best friend who wants to hold your hand and do it with you. So we're not meant to do anything alone. We really aren't. And there's a lot of help and support. It doesn't have to cost money at all. That's why I say, tap on one of your girlfriends and see if she's willing to do it with you. If you are able to hire someone, do that too. Do what works for you, what makes sense for you. But don't try to hack at it alone and be scratching your head. You're probably too close to it to really be objective and to make a good plan and take good care of yourself and navigate all of that with the ease and grace. That is my hope and prayer for you.
Another thing you could do is have like an accountability buddy. If you and another friend are in a similar space, then you can check in with each other weekly, monthly to see how is it going, what progress have you made, if you're really feeling some shifts in work. I have a really dear friend right now who is a super badass in the corporate world. She's been moving on up and she's really just killing it, but she's completely burned out and she is in the midst of reinventing herself. We're actually going to get together soon to have a talk, and I want to support her. But I see what a scary transition that is. And I want you to support her, frankly, when we can work that out. But that is really an intense transition, I think, especially for people who have been in a work setting where there's a very, very clear blueprint. And like you're saying, where you have supervisors, where there's, productive system ratings. I'm making up shit. I don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I'm getting at. I think it's mostly
structure. The structure is something you can really come to count on. And I think most of us, we were trained to live within a structure. So entrepreneurship seems like subversive and weird and crazy and risky, which it obviously can be too. Who am I outside of that system? I know that so many girlfriends are hearing us say this. And I'm like, yes, right. Who am I outside of the system that tells me when to wake up, when to take lunch, when to clock out, when to get overextended, when to crank, when to do someone else's work? Who am I to own my time and my space and my place and do things a little bit different?
And the beautiful answer to that is you're you. You're still you, right? You're you, not in the grind. You're you in having more freedom to define what that looks like. But like, I think I admitted, right? Here I am doing this alternative thing. And sometimes I laugh. My therapist used to say this. He's like, it's interesting that you're this entertainer with this very alternative lifestyle because I think you would do really well with a really like practical, structured job. But as you know from working with me, I have created structure. Because I like it. I'm the dork that loves making my little calendars and listing things out. That gives me safety. That gives me some meaning in the way my days flow. I also want those of you who are playing around with this to know that like you can absolutely create a very, very structured way of being if that's what works for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've done that so beautifully, and you've trained your clients. You trained your clients, and I remember holding your hand. It was not that easy to like rework the schedule and change how they pay you and when they pay you. And this is how we do it. This is when we do it. And everyone was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
It wasn't the scary hair on fire that I think so many of us think it will be, that we take the lead. And when we do, people who want to follow us, they do.
Well, what you helped me understand was when I ask for what I need, the right people are going to hear it.
Yes.
And it was very hard to believe that for a while. That people pleaser was so deeply ingrained in me. Oh, they pay me this way. They like to pay me this way. They want to pay me this often. They want to pay me this often. And when I suddenly was like, here's my billing policy, I was really scared because I was so trained to look at what other people needed. That to step back and go, this is what I need. It was like, am I going to get abandoned? Am I going to get let go? Which we don't need to spend too much time on, but you can imagine goes back to way before I was working. But that really was like such a wonderful lesson to recognize you absolutely should ask for what you need. Are you going to get a couple of people who are going to challenge you? Sure. Are they your ideal clients? No. And you're going to go out there and find your ideal clients. And I think as entrepreneurs and people who work for ourselves, it kind of is our job to find those right clients. We hire the right clients. They don't only hire us.
So beautifully said. It's true. And again, it's not something that the culture supports. And I don't know, like if people are teaching this in business school or entrepreneurship classes, it's not something I had ever heard before until I started doing my own business and getting coaches from people I admired. I like the way they work. I like the way they have their clients. I like the clients that I see when I go to their group events. Oh, I want to be like that. So that's what other girlfriends can do. We can find other like-minded people and use them as role models and maybe hire them or just be in their orbit or read their book or listen to their podcast, whatever that is. Because there is a way to do it. It can be very feminine. It can be very empowering. That is how we keep that retirement vibe, how we start it now and not killing ourselves. And I wonder if that would allow us to even work longer because we want to, because we feel a passion too.
Well, my mom, who's a visual artist and who does it out of pure passion and does make a living with it, we joke that she will die with a camera in her hand. This is her life's work. This is not what she shows up to do, works, clocks out. Now, for some people, that might be a better arrangement to actually just have work that's work and you leave it there. I totally get it. But I do think that if it's possible for us to tap into something that we enjoy and that we can sustain, I love the idea of being able to do it until I'm as old as I can be. There's something beautiful about that. So this last thing about this whole retirement idea too, the thing that really worries me when I hear people talk about retirement, I'll go here, I'll travel here, I'll do this, I'll do that. It's like, there's no guarantee about what we're going to be like at that point in our lives. And even will everything be set up for ourselves the way we idealize it? It almost feels like it has a little bit of this like happily ever after kind of heaven complex. We live for the tomorrow. Let's go ahead and start reverse engineering how we can live more in that retirement mindset today, because we don't know where we're going to be 20 years from now.
I call that creating heaven on earth. I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't do that now. That concept that you're like a donkey and there's a carrot hanging in front of you and you never reach the carrot. But you know what? When you die, then you're going to get all the good things. Right. I say, well, yes, there are good things all throughout and beyond. I do believe that. And I believe we are meant to experience heaven on earth right now.
Yes.
And so what is your version of heaven, girlfriends? And so I think this is something for us to really dig into in our after hours talk and Substack, because I know our girlfriends are going to have a lot of juicy stories for us, and we're going to be, oh no, what did you say then? You know, because I'm really looking forward to that.
More juicy than 3 orgasms a week? Oh my gosh. Let's get ready,
That's just
girls.
a start. Oh, you just start at 3 orgasms a week. You go up from there. That's just to rewire the brain.
Ooh,
That's
I
just
love
like
it.
a reboot system. I got a lot more to say about that. We'll save that for Substack.
We'll save that
y'all.
for the after hours Substack.
Girlfriends, thank you so much for joining us on this talk today. This was way juicier than I expected and way more satisfying. So I hope you feel that way too. Leave us a comment, rate, review us. Let us know what you're thinking about this and how it's applying to your life, because we're really doing this podcast for you.
Absolutely, girlfriends. Take that well-deserved break whenever the fuck you feel like it. We love you from the bottom of our hearts. And until next time, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for hanging out with us today on Girlfriends of a Certain Age. This episode was produced by Jessica Neighbor at Impact Vocal Coaching and Flashay Hesh at The Busy Mom.
This podcast jingle was written and performed by Jessica Neighbor. Do you have a girlfriend who needs to hear this message? Share this episode with her. She will love you forever.
If you enjoyed today's talk, join us in our private community on Substack at Girlfriends of a Certain Age.
You can help us reach even more girlfriends when you take 30 seconds to subscribe and rate our channel on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube so you never miss another episode.
Stay tuned for more episodes where we discuss more hot topics for all of you, our girlfriends living our best lives together.